I would like to call the City of Shelton Commission study session to order. And the first item on our business is our weekly commission reports. So, Commissioner Moore, did you have some things to report on?
Yes, I have a meeting on Tuesday with the Peninsular Railway and Lumbermen's Museum folks. On Wednesday, I'll be attending the Fred Meyer ribbon cutting, and that is it for the week. Friday, I'll be taking a long weekend to celebrate Labor Day.
Did you look at the sun when you went down to Oregon?
I did. Absolutely.
Very cool.
I had the sense to use my glasses, so.
Unfortunately, I had to peek, and my eye turned a little red, but I think it's probably the warfarin that did it. I don't know. So. Anyway, but that's exciting. So we just looked at it from up here, and, it was kind of cool. I guess the ones that had the glasses, But
It was awesome. It was more than I had anticipated.
A lot of people
and
down
I
there
enjoyed
in
it.
Oregon, probably.
Yeah.
All right, there, Commissioner McDowell, you had some things to report on.
Wednesday, I will be at the Fred Meyer ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. on the 30th, and I have a briefing with Ryan on Thursday, and that's my week.
Thank you. And I will also be attending that ribbon cutting at our local Fred Meyer outlet there. And on Wednesday, I will also be having lunch with Dr. Alex Apostle, the school superintendent, to talk about schools and things like that. So I'll have a briefing with Ryan on Thursday also, and that completes our weekly commission reports. Next is general public comment period. If anyone has a comment, they need to sign a little card and come forward. So do we have somebody signed in?
We do. We have Mike Olson.
Okay.
Mike Olson. First, I have a question. There used to be a copy of the packet and the agenda out on the little kiosk table, but it's no longer there. I didn't know if that's somewhere else to get those, or if it's just not being put out anymore.
I think we can answer that.
It's upstairs.
So you got to go upstairs now to do it? Okay.
Yeah, because there's nobody down here.
Okay. That answers that one. My next comment question is on the one of your items today on the agenda of the permit fees. One question I have is, how are you determining the renewal lots? We haven't ever heard any criteria on how those are established. Are you taking into account older homes or in disrepair, or is it strictly empty lots? And then my final comment is that you've been at this for well over 6 months trying to get this thing hammered down. And I think that time is slipping into budget time, and you're losing money every month that this goes by that you don't make a decision on this. And most of the talk that I hear concerning this is centered around comparing us to other cities, things of that nature, rather than focusing on what's best for our city, Shelton. And I think that the comparison kind of leads us down a sidetrack that takes us away from the issue at hand, and that's getting this fee schedule structure in place. Because like I said, we've got some major projects coming up, and I think if you mess around with it too much longer, you're going to affect the budget, plus we're going to lose even more money. And my final comment is, I would like to see you tweak it a little bit more. I support the direction you're going in, but I would like to see it slanted a little more towards homeowners rather than builders. You give this break to builders, but they don't pass it along. It's just profit in their pocket. And which, I am a builder, I would like to make a profit also, but I think that you're shortchanging the low-income folks, the affordable housing side, by only giving this break to people with money, such as builders that are going to come in and speculate, and it's just pure profit for them. If you drop the whatever fees or general facility charges, they don't pass that along. It just goes right to them in pure profit. So I'd like to see that addressed a little bit more. Thanks.
Thank you. That's it. All right, we have no consent agenda today, so we'll be moving right into the business agenda. And the first item on the agenda is for Shelby Conklin to come up and talk about a Forks jail contract.
afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Today I'm bringing the interlocal agreement with the City of Forks for continuing use of their jail facility. We currently have an interlocal agreement with them, but it's expiring at the end of October. Extends that agreement with a couple of changes. One of the changes is that it doesn't expire unless there's 90-day notice on either side. So if we give 90-day notice, we can terminate the contract, and they can as well. Previously, it expired after 3 years, and so this one will just go on until we give one or the other of us give notice, or we ask for some kind of a agreement change or negotiations. The beginning rate for it is $47.47 per inmate per day, and it's adjusted annually based on the Seattle CPI. There's additionally a $5 transportation fee. They will come here either to the court lobby or to the jail and pick folks up and transport them to Forks, and they provide bus transportation then back here. And again, our main contract is with Mason County. We have that contract. It's working well for the court. But when the space is short in there, or somebody has a longer term sentence, we'll be sending them to Forks so that we can free up the beds here. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So you said that the Forks rate is $47.47 a day?
Yes.
And a $5 transfer?
Yes.
Sorry. So my thought is, why don't we use Forks more than Mason County?
Mason County is used usually to hold people pending their hearings or when they're first booked, and it's just, if we used Forks, we'd have to transport them back and forth from Forks for all of their court hearings, and/or the police department would have to transfer them or take them up there when they were booked. So that's why Mason County.
Okay. How often do we use Forks?
We have people in there monthly. I think right now there's 3.
And those are longer term?
Yes.
Is that like after they get, the court says where they need to go, or? how
It's
long?
after sentencing, yes.
After sentencing, okay.
I think it's good to have options, rather than just one place, and so I think it's a good thing to have a contract with Forks.
Okay. So the recommendation is for a motion to place this interlocal agreement on the consent agenda and authorize the mayor to sign it on behalf of the city.
I move that we place this interlocal agreement on the action agenda on September 5th, 2017, and authorize the mayor to sign the interlocal agreement on behalf of the city of Shelton.
I second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If anybody wonders why I keep smashing the table with my hand, it's because our little, or whatever they call that, the little gavel has been misplaced. I'm sure we'll find it, because it's not going to break my knuckles to do that. So anyway, moving right along, we have a water and sewer rate model update, and that's going to be given to us by our city engineer, Rob Tauser.
Mayor and Commissioners, I'll give you a quick reminder of why we're here. So a few weeks ago, you authorized a contract through FCS Group to update our rate model for both water and sewer. And we promised that we'd bring back the infrastructure component of that so that we could provide some insight about what's in there, some updates on what we can expect to see, and Bob is going to go through those.
So I'm giving you 2 lists, one's for sewer, one's for water. In the sewer one, we've shown the original one where it was previously before we updated, and the total cost is about $51 million. Staff has gone through the entire list and adjusted some numbers and took some off because of the decision not to go forward, whatever, on a couple of these items. The bigger ones of the 3 or 4 are the satellite water reclamation plant. we've taken those 3 or 4 items off of there, $10 million each. They were for additional phases for the satellite plant. What's happened that there's been new technology found with the plates that are up there that we can gain capacity by updating the plates for a cost about $1.3 million, which will gain us about, instead of 400,000 gallons a day, it'd be up to about 900,000 gallons a day. Those 3 or 4 phases down there below for 10 million each was adding onto the plant from phase 2 and 3, and additional phases to add about 400,000 each. So the savings is quite a bit for updating those plates.
Plus, when we get Basin 3 done, that'll save up space in the big,
That'll help some capacity to
and
reduce
how
I&I.
much is that capacity going to be?
It all depends on when the completion of the
Okay.
project, we'll be able to figure out how much we've gained by
Okay,
that improvement.
all right.
Any questions on the sewer items?
We also have Brent Armstrong, who runs our sewer facilities. So if you have any questions about any infrastructure, any capacity issues, you can answer
I
those
have
now.
a couple more capacity
Yeah.
issues.
Real quick on your one about Basin 3, that's going to affect the capacity at the main plant, not the satellite plant.
Right, excuse me, I knew that. Sorry.
I just wanted.
But, yeah, and you don't know at this point how much that'll free up?
No, but it is one of our downtown basins where the water levels are quite high.
Okay, so what's the capacity right now at the satellite?
At the satellite?
Yes, is it-
0.4, so 400,000 gallons a day.
And that will move to 800,000?
To 0.9, to
0.9.
900,000.
Okay, all right. Okay, you answered my question, thank you.
So I have some questions that are kind of joint on both of the projects, so
Okay.
I'd like to wait until after we hear about water.
Okay. With no more questions on sewer. We did the same thing for the water improvements, the capital projects, and we're planning on doing. There's quite a list of ones there that are, the biggest long list is main replacements. There's a lot of AC, old asbestos concrete pipes in the system as well as cast iron. And the plan is to replace those as we can generate funds. So those will be trying to do some replacements every year, trying to budget about $150,000 a year for that.
Okay.
That's the biggest ones.
What are those replaced with?
Probably cast iron or PVC pipe.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're looking at original 10 million, but going to 14 million.
Yes,
But hopefully we will save the money for those projects as we go.
correct.
So we won't have to go,
And the dates are on the side here. We're trying
Okay,
to budget for
good.
those dates.
all right.
Well, this is exciting news for the city because lots of times, it just happens, everything goes up. And here's an example of some pretty substantial savings in projected infrastructure costs. And I'm extremely excited about that. And hooray for modern technology, that they've come up with something that can save you money instead of cost you money, so.
That was a collaborative effort with the staff and the shop engineering department coming together with the revisions that we came up with.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Very good.
So I am looking for, and I'm not seeing it here, is Basin 4 addressed in part of this?
We currently don't have no funding for any of the other basins beyond 3. There's, 4 more basins left, Brent, is that correct?
Yeah, 4
Besides-
number, but 7 is a major basin that's separated into north and south.
So we got about 4 more basins to do. The next one we're going to do is Basin 3. There's Basin 4, 7, 8, I don't remember the other number.
6.
6. So there's 4 additional basins we have no funding for. We have not planned to do any work until we try to get some funding for those.
And what shape are those basins in? I was under the understanding that Basin 4 is also a very old.
Yes, I think they're all old. I think the worst case are the ones we've done first. Basin 3 is the next one we're going to do. That's downtown. It's got a lot more water, a lot more I&I in it. The other basins are a little bit better shape, but they are all old. Correct.
Okay, so we just need to keep that in mind as we're looking forward, is that we will have more work to do in the next, how many years do you think?
Well, we like to go forward with trying to accomplish getting more funding for those basins one at a time. We'll probably prioritize the 4 remaining basins and then try to attempt to get funding.
When would that happen?
as far as prioritizing?
Yeah, I just want to know, is this something that we can just close our eyes to and worry about it later,
No,
or?
we're going to go forward with setting up a plan, get some
Okay,
funding with folks.
okay,
yes.
okay, that was my question. And then, because this is relevant, what impacts have the water and sewer rates freeze had on our funding and on the models that we're looking at? I realize it's been for 1 year. Has there been an impact?
You want to address that?
Yeah, I think, I can't answer it directly. I think that the one thing to keep in mind would be that when a rate model's put together, that the plan is that we stay with the plan. And if we don't, then we have to address it potentially with another year or a larger increase down the road.
Okay.
But in terms of your budget, have you noticed any impact?
Not directly. The actual operations budget it's a small portion of it with staff and actual operations costs
And at the,
compared to the whole budget in itself. So, I mean, we have mainly loans and we have to pay for the infrastructure that we put down.
and at the time when you do your budget, or when you did your budget, for this year, did you take into account the rate freeze? Or did the rate freeze happen after your budget was set?
The rate freeze actually happened, I believe, at the beginning of last year. They didn't increase rates. So for this year, I just get to ask for things out of my budget, and then it's up to management and you guys to approve them and see if we have the room. But as far as some of the lines for running costs, like we've had some pumps go down and had some major mechanical stuff that we've had to replace this year, so we've tried to increase those as we go. And so it's basically, we don't spend it unless we have to. So
Well,
it's,
yeah. I would assume
Yeah.
that. I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're adequately funding.
yeah, so
what
the
we need to
the
keep our
lines that we
system
see,
running.
that, okay, you know, we've had some equipment failures and maybe need to increase those, that's what we've asked for increases.
Okay, okay. And then, I don't remember if it was 1 year ago, 2 years ago, it was 2 years ago, when the commission as a whole, I believe, voted in favor of the current rate schedule. And so what my question is with the current rate freeze, if we were to continue that, and if we continue with our fee schedule as it is now, with the lower GFCs and all that, could that affect rates?
Well, just.
I was talking to staff.
I know, but we're not, that's not an option, or we're not planning to continue, that was taken off the table. So they're not staying the same, right?
May I ask the
Oh,
question?
sure, but I
Thank
just
you.
we took that option off last week, so. Did you have an answer to that?
So as far as, have we been affected, we haven't been affected as far as the staff that we have currently, but we've not been able to get some of the staff that we've asked for
Okay.
to,
So,
as far as expanding.
okay.
So,
I guess I
it's-
could have rephrased that question to make the mayor happy, in that was the fee schedule last year, did it have the potential for negatively affecting rates in the future?
as far as rates go, I don't.
I can speak a little bit,
can't really
just-
say much about the rate.
We're
Okay.
learning more about
Okay.
how the rate model was done. Current staff in Public Works, nor I, were around when FCS Group did the previous rates. One thing I can mention that they brought up when we called them a couple weeks ago was that there's a balance between GFCs and rates, and that's how the rate is derived over the next so many years. And so they did warn that adjusting one of those, at some point, you may have to adjust the other end as well. So they said to keep that in mind.
Okay, so
But
they're-
they couldn't tell me what a rate freeze in particular would do.
Okay, okay, so cause and effect is at play in every decision that we make, basically, it sounds like.
As well as these projects that you listed here.
Yeah.
It'll affect that as well.
This will have an effect as well.
Yeah,
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Okay, great, thank you.
Basically, sorry to interrupt you on that, what we had is like 4 options. One was that we leave the rates the same. One is that we go to 2015 levels, and both of them have been taken off the table by our decision. So what we're looking at, as far as rates go, which doesn't have a lot, I don't see, to do with this day-to-day operations here, but what it has to do is we have some choices of increasing the rates by 20% or going right back up to 2015 levels. So that's kind of what the rates, that's kind of where we are today in the upcoming report and whatnot.
Yeah, I was,
Right.
those were my questions
Okay.
for this.
I'm
It is,
sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean to do that. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't. Any
No,
other
no.
questions? It's a good job. Thank you very
Yeah,
much, you know.
This is
Really
super
exciting.
exciting
Yes,
news. This
yes.
is amazing.
What
A
we're
lot of
asking
work.
for is for the 3 of you to concur that we submit this to FCS Group, and then we expect within about 2 to 4 weeks, we'll be back with their draft report of an update.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm fully in favor. This sounds
Yeah.
wonderful.
Concur with that? No.
I'm kind of afraid to believe it, but my fingers are crossed.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. All right. Next is our permit fee schedule, and this is going to
Don't
be.
we have to
Oh,
make
oh,
them,
well,
but we have to listen to the general public on this, don't we?
Well, let's see here.
And then vote on it.
You didn't take a
No,
vote.
No?
it's
No.
just,
No,
Okay.
no,
Do
no,
we
it's-
need to make a recommendation or a motion?
Well, we just concurred with that.
Okay, all right,
and-
okay.
And we
Very
don't,
good.
this is not action agenda item,
get it
so.
now.
But thank you. It's always good. Sometimes, lots of times I make a mistake and move on without properly figuring out what to do, so. So this is going to be our city manager, Ryan Wheaton, is going to be talking to us about the permit fee schedule options.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. This is information that we brought forward a few times in the past. We're bringing it back to you today. Briefing packet that you have in front of you has nothing new. There are no new updates inside this packet. What we're asking for today is some direction, and we're asking for that because we are getting close to preparing our preliminary budget, and being as this has a good amount of revenue in it, it's going to help direct us on what that revenue looks like for Public Works as well as the Planning Department. So we're asking for some direction today as you look at these options for what you want to do in the future. And then we can answer any questions you have about these.
Questions or comments about this subject?
Do we talk now?
Ken?
you can.
Well, I've been looking at this a lot and thinking about this for quite a while and talking to some of my expertise friends that are in business, are in businesses. And I've probably come to the conclusion that I really am excited about this renewal property program. I believe that's going to be an incentive for people to go in and, I mean, Habitat could go in and renew an old house. Anybody could, infill lots, whatever. I'm looking at what is that going to do to our city as freshening it up, and I feel it's a big, big step in that direction. On the other hand, if we do that, we're going to need to bring the fees, I see that we need to bring the fees up to the 2015 level. To be able to do this renewal program, we have to, I feel we have to bring it up to the 18,000 level of, and I'm talking 1 year again, a test for 1 year to see how this goes, and check in on how this renewal property project would go. But that's what I am understanding, and this is how I'm looking at it.
Okay. Well, I would say that I agree with Commissioner McDowell, and I am extremely excited about the possibility of moving forward with an innovative way of spurring growth and also changing the atmosphere, changing the culture, changing the expectations in our city. And I think that is an exciting way to do it. And I do agree that that would be beneficial to more of the city, because if this does spur the renewal, then that helps the property owners that are adjacent and across the street and everywhere throughout the city. And so I'm very much in favor of that.
All right, I have a prepared statement. And it appears I'm leaning in the other direction. But that's the way politics goes sometimes. If faced with making a decision today between option A, which is to increase our overall charges, fees and charges by 20% from the current rates, or option B, which is to establish a Shelton renewal program that returns our fees to the 2015 levels, I would choose option A. In the first place, we are the commissioners, and we should not be restricted to option A's or option B's. I see many things in option B that I like. I think that the end of the world isn't coming tomorrow as far as I know, and there's opportunity for us to continue to negotiate and figure out if there isn't some wiggle room in this. So I didn't quite like the way that it comes down to just A or B, but I respect the wishes of this commission, and if this is the direction the commission chooses to go, I will support my fellow commissioners in their decision. But I think this is a wrong way to go, and I'll tell you why. Because if we return to 2015 levels, with our permit fees, we are at risk of losing the success that we've gotten by lowering our permit fees. When we started this program, we were literally on the edge of bankruptcy. I mean, the city had almost no hope. We had just massive reserves, and since that time, we have changed a lot of things, and all for the good. Every day, we come up with more grants. We come up with different ideas on how to do things. I am extremely happy and excited about the progress we've made in just little over a year. So I think a lot of that had to do with lowering those fees. And that's, again, to remind people that if you look at a 16-month period, from when we started until that 16 months, we actually built 24 new homes or duplexes in compared to 1 to 2 houses a year for 10 years. Okay, so I think it was a big step in the right direction. So that's why I'm concerned about jumping right back to this 2015 level. Because the 2015 level, we all think, is the normal. But why would the city of Shelton be charging more to do something than our surrounding comp cities? And that 2015 level, as the information given to me from staff, is that it was, on an average, it's 40% above what other cities are doing. So that means if you are a builder or a homeowner or a developer or a business person, and you're comparing cities to move to, by returning to that 2015 level on average commercial or residential lots, you're looking at a 40% increase if we do this. And I think that's nuts. I think we just started a great program that's moving forward. I support 20% increase. That's fine. That's more than we made last year. But to jump right back to that 2015 level, I think is crazy, because we're now putting ourselves out of the market for what a lot of other cities in this area are doing. And I don't think it's as big a rush or an emergency as what some people may think, that we jump up these two options. But I'm concerned if we jump back to $18,000 per lot to build on, that we can say goodbye to affordable housing. Habitat for Humanity only started building in our city again after leaving our city because we lowered our rates. And what about our homeless population? What about remodels? I think this is the wrong direction, and I think we need to take a look at the option B and look at some things out of it and go with just gradually bringing this situation up. We're not we're not totally into people are running to our city. I'll tell you what, you raise these fees too fast, too quick, and it will stop growth, or it'll slow it down. And real money into the city doesn't come from that permit fee. The permit fee is just one small part of the picture. Where the real money comes in from is people, businesses and families moving into this city and the city growing from more property tax, retail sales tax, growing from all of the utility rates, et cetera, and we can start growing the city. I really think we were in the fire, we jumped out, we got a brief glimpse of success and prosperity, and then all of a sudden, jump right back into the fire. I have never seen a complete detailed list of these option B lots. I've got something here that talks about different properties, but I don't know this is a money saving or a money losing, because I don't think there's any real way to completely do it, which means we have to make decisions and policies based upon what are we doing. We have a good feeling about where we're going right now. I think this squashes it. And so my last statement on this is we need to continue to give across-the-board incentives to build more houses, duplexes, and multifamily units, and we need these housing units today because the rents are going through the roof, and homelessness is growing, and raising these fees to $18,000 per lot is, I think, a wrong way to go. So that concludes our statements on this subject.
I have some more.
I do too.
That concludes
Well-
your statement.
That concludes my statement.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay. So we're not just raising the rates to 2015. We're bringing in another incentive program, a renewal program for the horrible houses and buildings that need to be taken care of that we cannot take care of because we don't have the money to do it. We don't have incentives for those people to come in and say, yeah, I want to tear that bowling alley down, but you know what? I want to see some incentives. So here's some incentives. I want to rehab that house down the road that's been boarded up because drugs have been dealt in there. I want to go in as a builder, and I want to be able to redo that house, get the drugs out of there, get property taxes on the books, and get some revenue into the city by a family coming in and buying a affordable house. That's affordable housing, is those renewal properties. Now, I just asked NOLA if we can adjust the rates, look at other cities, since there's some cities with lower building fees, if we can go to those and still use the renewable option B, and I think you said no. Would be a hard call, wouldn't it?
We'd have to research it.
Okay, so Habitat, they would love to get an old house and rehab it. It would save them some money. They wouldn't have to buy the piece of property. They would go in and purchase the house and renew it. That's a plus there also. So that's where I'm coming from, but I'm asking a 1-year window on this one. Just like we did before, we took longer than a year. But we can review this through the year and see if this is working. And then we can come back and say, you know what, this didn't really work too well. Let's go with another option. Let's figure out something else to do. But I'm willing to give it a shot. We have a school that's going to be built with lots of fees that are going to be on that school. So I just can't see going from $9,136, 20% up to $11,000 and thinking that we're going to do any progress with that amount of money. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. I agree that the possibility of these renewal lots will greatly impact our supply of affordable housing. And it doesn't, I think more people are interested in providing homes than can really afford to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that it would increase the affordability. And like I said, the long-term benefits to the city, I think, are great by taking away these liabilities that are properties that are undeveloped or eyesores or problem homes. So as far as what the mayor was talking about as taxes and the other great things that happen with growth and development, I think those things will be there if we can attract more people to come here who want to live here because it's a beautiful city and that we don't have these eyesores of properties. So I'm 100% behind option B. I like it. It says right here that it's monthly updates, which makes me feel really good. And there is an identified goal there. So I would also be interested in seeing what the properties are.
And
I
it's for a
think.
year. It's for a year. And I'd be the first one to stand up and say, you know what? This was a screwed up plan. We have to figure out something else to do. But let's give it a year. Let's give it 1 year. We didn't have any guarantee that the 1 year ago when we lowered the fees we're going to do anything. No, nothing is set in gold until you see it. And so
I
give
did
it a
have a
year.
few more comments
Oh,
to make.
and I wasn't finished yet
Okay.
either.
Well, we
I
got
like-
things jumping around here, so
Yeah.
when I get a chance, let me know.
Okay, well, do you want to go first and then I'll finish?
Absolutely, thank you. Here's the deal. There's been something said about habitat. Well, I meet with the guys all the time. Here's the truth. They're not looking for an old house to tear down to build a new house. They're looking for a vacant lot. Now, can they? Maybe, but remember, the cost to tear down the house is on them. So to their out-of-pocket costs, it may cost them $10,000 to $20,000 to make that abandoned property usable. So rather than spending $9,000 or $11,000 for a clean lot to jump in and build, they are now faced with a $10,000 to $20,000 tear out and make the lot. So that's not, it's not like these abandoned lots are called abandoned lots because they have a cost that's has to take to fix them up. So as far as quoting what Habitat for is ready to jump in and do, they're ready to jump in and do. And they were at our meeting a month ago, and he says they thank you very much for lowering the rates. So if you were to quote them, they are very much into lowered rates rather than the 2015. These abandoned lots will have a cost to the person working on them, which is why you cancel the fee. It's still a cost out of their pocket.
Well, Habitat is going to be building their next house out in, I believe, Shorecrest. There isn't another hopeful scheduled house for Habitat for the next 2 years in Shelton. I'm asking a 1-year plan on this. 2 years down the road, that's different than a 1-year plan.
I have this whole list of questions here. I'm hopeful not to have to ask them all. 10 to 20,000 seems like a huge expense for demolition of a house. And I would say that we have, as part of our renewal program, we do have some help with incentives for tear down and dumping, which is $1,250 per property. So that is a help with that. And what is the average price of a demo for just a single family?
Craig would be more appropriate, but in our discussions and talking about the houses that the city has demoed and disposed of, the disposal cost is probably about $3,000.
Okay.
For a basic, small, single-family house. We actually, if you remember in our budget retreat,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, we requested $8,000 for the Blue House over here on Fifth Street to demo and dispose of. And that included some restoration, demo fees, potential rental of some equipment that the city doesn't have. We could do it with the backhoe dump trucks that we have. It takes a little bit longer than an excavator or something like that, but the commission recommended that we reduce that cost if at all possible. So we could probably get away with just the disposal cost at $3,000 and not assign that cost as well as staff and equipment to that project. It would just be absorbed within the streets and other departments where the employees are working out of on a daily basis.
Okay, so there, maybe that's a little bit more, but I think that would definitely be outweighed by the opportunity to have zero cost permits. I mean, it still would be, I think, a bargain compared to the typical way of doing it. I also would like to say again that the Stockholm plans, if we approve this and we have Stockholm plans, that is going to be a huge saving, not only for the people who want to do one of the renewal properties, but also if someone just wants to come and build a house, that would be a savings there.
And not every lot, Tracy and Gary, has a house on it. There are many, many lots in this city that
yes.
could be purchased for a low cost. So we're looking at empty lots also,
Not, well, let's make
infill lots.
clarification, please. A vacant city lot, you're not planning to reduce fees on a vacant city lot, are you?
I believe there are some on the
Yes.
list. It's minimal, but lots that had a building on it before burned down or had an issue.
So there's nothing, it's a clear vacant lot.
Well,
They'd essentially be infill or in existing neighborhoods. We're not talking about subdivision.
Right.
Or
Right.
something that's
Right.
on the exterior
Sure.
of our current city infrastructure.
Right, so
That's
someone
obviously-
could come in and do this renewal program with one of those lots.
Certainly,
Yeah.
it would, now, again, this does need to be refined as public comment I mentioned earlier. We would further define the definition of renewal lots, have an indication of which lots fall within this policy. We were waiting for more staff, or commission direction, excuse me, to go down that road before we spend a lot of time looking at the 130 estimated lots that we have on our list. So we can
Okay.
further refine those, see what the current condition is of those lots, and have a little more detail and background for those that might come in and explore the redevelopment of those.
And to remind the public of my opinion on giving a free, no permit to a builder to build on a perfectly clean infill lot, I did not approve of that, and I would not approve of it. I mean, I think that, you're talking about a golden parachute. I mean, why would anybody want to get a pay no permit fee to come in on a lot that they don't have to remove a house or something? So just, I mean, on the option B, the many little questions to be asked or answered, I don't know. I think that's probably one I wouldn't do. But anyway, we're trying to, in a transparent way, discuss who and how we feel about these different issues. And so, Tracy Moore, you had some more comments too.
yeah, I did. One thing I was wondering, and I watched last week's commission meeting online. I wasn't here, but I watched your presentation, and I was just wondering if those numbers were vetted by finance department.
Those numbers were just the numbers that we got off this sheet right here. Right there. So,
Were you in agreement then with those numbers, or did you do?
I did not review.
Okay.
I wasn't aware ahead of time of what was going on.
Okay.
I don't generally review all of my information before I present it.
Well, and there's always allowing for a possibility of error. I would like for the
Absolutely.
city to all be on the same page.
Absolutely.
And then, one thing I've wondered about, because it keeps coming up, is the comparable cities. And I remember distinctly that you had asked for the comparables from, and this is a question for the mayor, you had asked for the comparables from Aberdeen and Centralia and Port Orchard.
That's correct.
And those are not the numbers that we were first given as true comparable cities. And can somebody explain to me what that difference is?
Well, if the question is to me,
It was,
well,
actually.
you
it
said
was-
that, but that's all right. I'll turn it over to our city manager at this time.
Those are the cities that we ended up with were requested at, I think, either the first or second briefing that we did. In terms of whether or not they're comparables for us, they aren't our normal comparables. Port Orchard is. Centralia
Yeah.
and Aberdeen don't fall into our normal list of comparables. They're a little, I think they're both above 16,000, so they're a little bigger than we normally use.
That's population?
Correct, sorry.
Oh, okay.
The
So,
16,000.
and Yelm was in our original original comparable. And I just wanted to point out that the difference is that we're a little bit higher in the connection fees and the public works fees, but we're less than 3 of those comparables. Is
So
that
there-
correct?
So there would be no way of, like, taking these cities, bunching them together, figuring out the average, comparing them to Shelton and bringing the Shelton building fees
That's what I did.
to,
That's the average of those 3 cities is
Well-
40% below, the average of those 3 cities, 40% below what our 2015 rate is.
But those are not the cities that are true comparables when we're used in data collection for various things. So I guess I feel more comfortable, and maybe it's a moot point. It sounds like Kathy and I are
Sure, but
in
if you're,
agreement.
if you're challenging my numbers and
No,
my.
we're not.
Well,
I'm
she
not.
is, no, and that's all right.
No, I'm just-
It's okay, I can explain. Port Orchard, Centralia, and Aberdeen are the 3 cities that are like within an hour of our city. The reason that I chose to throw Yum out of the picture is because basically your income level in Yum is extremely higher than your average income level of those cities, okay? And if, you're not going to get an exact comparable. There's no other Shelton right there. But I look at Shelton as a city that's coming out of a history with logging like Centralia, Aberdeen, and that Port Orchard, probably not, but I know that Tumwater and Yelm, because of the income difference is so extreme, that using their permit fees, to me, it just was like a no-brainer because of the income difference between those. So I'm just trying to tell you how I derived my numbers, and that if you figured out it's 40% above the 2015, 40% above the competition. If you're buying a car, you'd buy it there.
Yeah, I guess when I look at it, and I guess what my point is with that, is I'm looking at their comparable prices, and things are booming in Port Orchard and Tumwater, and so I don't really see that that's a negative, that we're already less than those. Our 2015 prices were less, and it did not mean that we were getting the influx of builders. So there are more things to consider than just the permit fees. So, but, okay, so I am completely in favor of option B. And I think that we can look at the properties, and as we have more questions, we can let staff know what our concerns are, and we can hammer it out, right?
That's right.
right.
And so if we are ready, this commission concurs to place this plan and direct staff to prepare an appropriate fee schedule update at the earliest possible meeting, with the caveat that I do not support it. So we all understand that for my sake. And so we will move forward, and staff will move forward with a recommendation of 2 commissioners.
Okay, so
Thank
fine with
you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Transparent.
Yep.
Okay, now we're moving on to administration reports. And the first will be from the Court and Community Services update, Shelby Conklin again.
So starting with the community service report. Again, this is things they've done throughout the month. They cleaned all the weeds out of the creek from the shop to the bay. The weed eated the banks of the creek and weed eated a subdivision on Jones Street. Cleaned and trimmed the area around the clock tower, and cleaned and pulled weeds at Evergreen Square. With Parks Department, they weeded and picked up litter at Neelan Park. With the community, they loaned litter pickers, bags, and vests to the volunteer group on the Day of Giving. They weed-eated, trimmed brush and trees, and scraped sidewalks on Railroad, Coda Grove, 6th and 7th Streets. Pulled weeds, weed-eated, trimmed brush, blackberries, and scraped concrete on the bridge on 7th Street and Park Street. Picked up litter on Front Street, SR3 Park and Ride, Railroad, Cedar, Coda, Franklin, Grove, Adams, 4th, 5th, and 6th Streets, the trail behind the library, Olympic Highway North and South, and around the homeless shelter. So their ongoing projects, again, are picking up litter, cutting and splitting and stacking firewood, cleaning, weed eating overgrown sidewalks, cleaning trails, cleaning up abandoned camps. The numbers are that they picked up 1,800 pounds of garbage, 3 yards of yard waste, no needles. They had one person complete this month, and currently there are 100 folks assigned to community service. They have one person on EHM, electronic home monitoring. Requests from the public, they have not had any firewood requests yet, but that's probably just next month. And they've completed 2 yards. So that's what community service has been doing. In the court, I think you all know that I've submitted my intent to retire in November. So this is likely the last meeting that I'll be addressing you. I think that the judge will be doing the September meeting, and community service supervisor will give her own report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby.
All right, next is Deputy Fire Chief Mike Patty.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. I believe you've got the briefing packet from Chief McKern. He's in Eastern Washington trying to help put out the fires over there. So we've had a pretty busy year so far with the Shelton Station. We're at 1,685 calls for service so far in the city. We've been averaging about 14.6 calls for service a day so far in the city. For activities for the district so far, we gave a offer of employment to Eunice Randall, a firefighter paramedic, contingent on passing her psychological and medical, and we'll be conducting a test in 2 weeks for a firefighter EMT. We've got a ambulance that's being retrofitted down at Braun Northwest. We should probably be getting it back probably end of September. And we've got 2 engines in for retrofitting of pumps and that to see if we can get maybe 3 to 5 more years of service out of them. So other than that, it's been slow.
That's a good thing.
Well,
It does not sound
Slow is a good thing.
Slow
you know,
is good.
it's kind of like you and the police chief, you got something in common. You know, you got a job to do and you want to do the job, but we much rather that there's not much for you to do. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying?
Yep. No activity is a good thing.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you, sir.
report.
Thank you.
All right, now, next is our police chief, Darren Moody.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Just give you a quick overview of year-to-date crime stats out there. Simple assaults are down considerably. Overall theft is down, but we've seen a slight increase in car burglaries. Motor vehicle theft is down. As you know, we just did a grant where we gave out the clubs around town. I can't say that that has solved it, but I think that and just the knowledge of people telling them to lock their cars and pay attention to what's going on has dropped auto theft. And seen a decrease in narcotic arrests. Part of the decrease in that narcotic arrest may revolve around a memo that I just gave to Ryan that he will give you from the sheriff's office. The recent budget battles at the county level have affected us in a pretty big way. The sheriff's office has decided it will no longer take certain bookings from outside agencies, and we're seeing a huge impact on us and our ability to put people in jail. Hopefully soon they can work in cooperation with each other at the county level and not use other jurisdictions as pawns in their battles, which affects us. They've given us a list of what they will take and what they won't take at the jail. So they've kind of handcuffed us, for lack of a better term, as to who we can put in jail at proper times. On the good news, we graduated somebody from the academy last week. Chris Downs graduated from the academy. You'll see him back on patrol this week. He's anxious to get back and started. We hired Trent Latch, who's a Shelton resident, who from the Skokomis tribe, who has started with us about a month ago and just finished his FTO period and is on his own. And we made a job offer and was accepted for a provisional police officer. Provisional is a temporary police officer with no benefits. A young lady named Sierra Paulson worked for Suffolk, Virginia Police Department, came out here with family who transferred in the military, bought a house here in Shelton and loved the area, and she wanted to go back to work as a police officer, and so we hired her. So you'll see her around town. And in addition to that, we made 2 conditional offers for the records evidence clerk up front. We split it into a 1.5 position, so we've made a part-time offer and a full-time offer, and I'll keep you updated on that as we go. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't know, any questions, comments? Thank you for your service to the community. Huh? Good.
Thank you.
We usually don't clap for people, but for the chief, I mean, come on. If you can't clap for your police chief, what kind of meeting is this?
Well, we can clap for our fire chief.
Oh, well, we could too for the fire, but, no, we don't. Okay, and what about Shelby? Should we clap for Shelby too? I mean, Shelby,
Yay,
you
Shelton.
survived. Don't
Yeah.
throw those retirement forms away. Other people may want to see some of those, Okay, so let's move on to, we're going to clap for you, so don't think we're going to go that way. Okay, Mark Ziegler is going to give us a community update here.
All right, I'll start with the planning department. This week, the department has released the final environmental impact statement for the comprehensive plan. That is available on the city's website, as well as hard copies here at the Civic Center and at the library. We anticipate to have that comp plan to the commissioners in early October, and finally bringing that process to fruition. A little update on Shelton Hills. We've recently had the ability to provide comment on a interim action that would be cleanup in one of the ravines that actually drain, I guess, or the overflow drainage for Goose Lake. It's only about 122 cubic yards of sediment that would be removed, tested, and then the wetland would be mitigated and rehabilitated to its
22?
122
Okay, yeah.
cubic
Thank
yards
you.
of material.
Saying 22, I'll go through with my pickup.
So DOE, Department of Ecology, is the permitting agency on that, but they do utilize the city's standards and include those in the permit process. They will have a public comment period any day now. It might be early next week, but they'll release a 30-day public comment period and then allow Shelton Hills to move forward on that project. We're working with Community Lifeline on a new conditional use permit for their facility. They're looking at expanding their use based on additional funding from Mason County, I believe. So that should be coming in front of the commission within the next month or so. In the Recreation Department, we've produced the fall program brochures, so that is being distributed as we speak. New programming kind of changes after summer's over and school's starting. Just a little update on some of the activity, especially Nealon Park. We counted about 70 bookings through the park through the summer. So that's everything from music in the park to the first time Relay for Life has been held in Nealon Park, where it used to be held up at Shelton High School, to your typical family reunions, birthday parties, and activities. So the park gets a lot of use and a lot of activity down there, where it continues to be a valuable facility for this community.
Percentage of day, I mean, you have a bigger percentage of use this summer than in the past.
I don't have last year's or the previous year's numbers with me, but it's pretty consistent.
Okay.
There really isn't, especially weekends, there's not a whole lot of space available. You know, most Saturdays and Sundays throughout the summer are booked up. There might be an hour here, hour there, you know, late in the day or early in the day, but typically any increase is going to happen weekdays and evenings.
Okay.
Yeah. We still have an opening for a Civic Center intermittent worker here, providing support for events and activities set up here in the Civic Center. The Facilities Department, we should be recruiting for that position, that would facilities manager here in the next several weeks to hopefully fill that and get us up to speed with our staffing levels there. Building Department, 95 permit applications in the month of August. of those 59 are mechanical permits that are specific to the natural gas work downtown. So there are now hooking up to those meters downtown. So we've been averaging about 33 permits this year per month. So it's pretty much right on track if that work wasn't taking place at this time. Still 14 single-family residents and duplexes for the year. I don't think we've seen one since June, since I reported in June, so none in July and August. The remainder obviously include alterations, remodels, re-roofs, plumbing, things like that. Staff is meeting regularly with Shelton School District in advance of their construction projects. We're trying to get as much information as we can and be able to provide as much information to them so we can get applications that are able to be reviewed and turned around as quick as possible. They have a very quick timeline in order to get review and get to work on those projects to have those schools open in 19. We want to be able to provide that service that they are anticipating, and with the limited staff that we have, it just makes sense to do as much work up front as we can rather than, not having some familiarity when they submit, so we know what we're reviewing and what we're getting into. They're large projects, and we'll take a lot of time really to review and then as well inspect and permit through the process.
Do you think that the staff that we currently have is going to be able to keep up with that, especially if we start getting additional single?
No.
No. Okay.
No chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we'll be looking at contracting out, at least review, plan review. As far as the inspection process after that, we're hoping we can keep up with that, but it certainly will depend on how many more projects come in. But just at minimum, the 2 school projects at Mountain View and the high school will be essentially full-time position, just managing those projects and working them through the construction phases.
So on that subject, though, is it unheard of that is it not typical, do you staff for what you're planning on getting in a year, but when there's a spike that you contracted out, you sub out plan checks, is that not the normal for cities? Because most cities don't hire a staff for heavy load. They hire staff for your medium load, knowing that spikes can appear as in a business, and then it is typical practice that you would have to sub some of those things out. I know the county used to do that quite a bit. They would sub out, especially plan checks, commercial plan checks. Is that an unheard of practice, or is that?
I don't believe so. I think it depends on the level of service you want to provide. Obviously, if you believe that you're providing a level of service to this standard, you would staff it to that standard. If you are providing a level of service to what might be your typical year, whatever that might be. We haven't seen a typical year for some time. That's where you provide that level of service and supplement that with outside resources.
So what do you do with an employee if you have a spike and for 2 months and you hire a plan checker? What do you do for the rest of the year if that's
Correct.
a spike?
Absolutely.
So that's why you have the opportunity
You bet.
to sub that stuff
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Did you have any more?
One last thing, we're updating a lot of permit applications, so if anybody is out there contemplating a project, take a look at the city's website or come on into the Civic Center to look at those applications. They're being updated now with our new building inspector on board. These will be easier for the applicant to fill out, and they'll also provide the city all the information that is needed to review the application and be able to get it out in a timely manner. So we're really encouraging people to take a look at the new permits, new applications on the city's website in order to, prior to starting their project.
Questions or comments for Mark Ziegler?
No.
Keep up the good work. A lot of good reports from the community on the residential side of our new building inspector positive, people have been saying some positive things about the nice young man, so it's always good to hear about those things, so.
Sure, we'll pass it on.
Yep, please do that. Okay, thank you very much, and next is our city manager, Ryan Wheaton, to present us any additional information.
Just one thing, Mayor and Commissioners, we did settle on a date. We had some conflicts for our Shelton Out Loud public forum. So on September 27th at 6 p.m. here at the Civic Center, we will have the mayor to give a brief message for the city, and then we'll have our department directors giving brief updates or annual reports, if you will, and then we're going to open up the floor to any technical questions that the public has about anything that we're doing. We'll also provide some project updates and previews of next year. That'll be the 27th.
Is that a Wednesday?
It is a Wednesday here at the Civic Center, 6 o'clock.
Good, I hope we have a great turnout for that.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, not Monday, Tuesday on September 5th at 6 p.m. in the evening. This meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Ryan.